what advice would you give to people looking to start learning jiu-jitsu? Given how busy you are, given where you are in life, that you're able to do this, you're able to train, you're able to compete and get to learn something from this interesting art.
I just think you have to be willing to just get beaten up a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, but I mean, over
Yeah.
time, I think that there's a flow to all these things. I mean,
Yes.
there's, you know, one of I don't know, my experiences that I think kind of transcends, running a company and the different activities that I like doing are, I really believe that, like, if you're going to accomplish whatever, anything, a lot of it is just being willing to push through, right? And having the grit and determination to push through difficult situations. And I think that for a lot of people that ends up being sort of a difference maker between the people, who kind of get the most done and not. I mean, there's all these questions about, like, how many days people want to work and things like that. I think almost all the people who, like, start successful companies or things like that are working extremely hard. But I think one of the things that you learn, both by doing this over time, or very acutely with things like jujitsu or surfing, is you can't push through everything. And I think that's you learn this stuff very acutely doing sports compared to running a company, because running a company, the cycle times are so long, right? It's like you start a project and then it's like months later, or if you're building hardware, it could be years later before you're actually getting feedback and able to make the next set of decisions for the next version of the thing that you're doing. Whereas one of the things that I just think is mentally so nice about these very high turnaround conditioning sports, things like that, is you get feedback very quickly, right? It's like, okay, like I don't counter something correctly, you get punched in the face, right? So not in jiu-jitsu, you don't get punched in jiu-jitsu, but in MMA. There are all these analogies between all these things that I think actually hold, that are like important life lessons, right? It's like, okay, you're surfing a wave. It's like, sometimes you can't go in the other direction on it, right? It's like there are limits to kind of what, it's like foil, you can pump the foil and push pretty hard in a bunch of directions, but like, yeah, it's at some level, like the momentum against you is strong enough, that's not going to work. And I do think that that's sort of a humbling, but also an important lesson for, I think, people who are running things or building things. It's like, yeah, a lot of the game is just being able to kind of push and work through complicated things, but you also need to kind of have enough of an understanding of, like, which things you just can't push through and where the finesse is more important.
Yeah.
What are your jiu-jitsu life lessons?
Well, I think you did it. You made it sound so simple and we're so eloquent that it's easy to miss. But basically, being okay and accepting the wisdom and the joy in the getting your ass kicked, in the full range of what that means, I think that's a big gift of the being humbled. Somehow being humbled, especially physically, opens your mind to the full process of learning what it means to learn, which is being willing to suck at something. And I think jiu-jitsu just very repetitively, efficiently humbles you over and over and over and over, to where you can carry that lessons to places where you don't get humbled as much, whether it's research or running a company or building stuff. The cycle is longer. In jiu-jitsu, you can just get humbled in a period of an hour, over and over and over and over. Especially when you're a beginner, you'll have a little person, just somebody much smaller than you, just kick your ass repeatedly, definitively, where there's no argument.
Oh, yeah.
And then you literally tap, because if you don't tap, you're going to die. So this is an agreement. You could have killed me just now, but we're friends, so we're going to agree that you're not going to. And that kind of humbling process, it just does something to your psyche, to your ego, that puts it in its proper context, to realize that, everything in this life is like a journey from sucking through a hard process of improving rigorously day after day after day after day. Like, any kind of success requires hard work. Yeah, jiu-jitsu more than a lot of sports, I would say, because I've done a lot of them. It really teaches you that. And you made it sound so simple. Like I'm okay, it's okay. It's part of the process. You just get humble, get your
Well,
ass kicked.
I've just failed and been embarrassed so many times in
Yeah,
my life that, like, I'm it's a core competence at this point.
it's a core competence. Well, yes, and there's a deep truth to that. Being able to, and you said it in the very beginning, which is that's the thing that stops us, especially as you get older, especially as you develop expertise in certain areas. The not being willing to be a beginner in a new area.
Yeah.
Because that's where the growth happens, is being willing to be a beginner, being willing to be embarrassed, saying something stupid, doing something stupid.
Mhm.
A lot of us that get good at one thing, you want to show that off, and it sucks being a beginner, but it's where growth happens.